and gentlemen, Rahul Gandhi went ballistic in the Lok Sabha this evening. He launched a multi-pronged attack on the NDA Sarkar, from blaming the Modi government of isolating India outside and committing big strategic mistakes within. Rahul Gandhi tried to build a case that Bharat is surrounded by enemies and is pretty much alone in the world. He warned the Modi government of underestimating the threat that the country faces from China. Listen in to Rahul Gandhi's fiery attack on the government.
The nation is now at risk. The nation is at risk. The nation is at risk from outside, from inside. The nation is at risk from inside. And that is a very dangerous place for a nation to be. And I don't like it. I am very uncomfortable with my nation, with my beloved country standing where it is standing. Completely isolated on the outside, fighting on the inside. Institutions captured, states not able to speak to each other. This worries me. दो हिंदुस्तान बन रहे हैं, एक अमीरों का हिंदुस्तान और दूसरा गरीबों का हिंदुस्तान, और इन दो हिंदुस्तानों के बीच में खाई बढ़ती जा रही है. The RSS and the BJP is playing with the foundations of our country, and they are weakening the foundations of our country. The Chinese have a very clear vision of what they want to do. Do not underestimate the force that is standing in front of you. Do not underestimate the power that stands in front of us.
But while underestimating India and hailing the super status of China, Rahul might have overlooked some of the facts. The BJP has come out with a fact sheet. Rahul Gandhi said that India wasn't able to get a guest on Republic Day. But what he ignored was that 5 Central Asian presidents could not attend due to the COVID situation. But they had a virtual meeting with the Prime Minister. Rahul Gandhi said Modi government has brought Pakistan and China together, but he cannot ignore the statement that has been made by Dr. S. Jaishankar, Foreign Minister, who said that in 1963, Pakistan illegally handed over Shaksgam Valley to China. As per the minister, China built the Karakoram highway through POK in the 1970s when the Congress was in power. Rahul Gandhi said the idea of king has come back, which Congress removed in 1947. But the Congress government under Indira Gandhi imposed emergency in 1975. The BJP has rained fire on Rahul Gandhi, saying that it is the Gandhi Parivar that has been isolated. Listen in.
वो कह रहा है देश खतरे में है, अंदर से और बाहर से दोनों तरफ से खतरे में है.
नहीं, कांग्रेस और गांधी परिवार खतरे में है, ये घुमाकर देश का ऊपर थोपते हैं.
वो कह रहा है देश खतरे में है, अंदर से और बाहर से दोनों तरफ से खतरे में है.
नहीं, कांग्रेस और गांधी परिवार खतरे में है, ये घुमाकर देश का ऊपर थोपते हैं.
And the legitimate question on the NewsHour tonight: is the war on Bharat or the BJP Sarkar? That's the question, and that's the debate coming up on the other side. Rahul to India theory. That's the hashtag and the debate coming up.
You're watching the NewsHour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
Joining me tonight on the debate, Shehzad Poonawala, national spokesperson of the BJP, Ishkaran Bhandari, advocate, Ashutosh Mishra, senior journalist. But my first question goes to Advocate Kapil Madan, political analyst. And Advocate Kapil Madan, my question to you is straight, fair and square. Very well, the questions that Rahul Gandhi has raised on unemployment, on poverty, on the situation of the GDP growth. But do you think he got a little carried away as far as facts are concerned on India's foreign policy? Do you think the attack really was on the government, or was it on India itself? Because the way he spoke about China being such a great superpower, it almost looked like we were eulogizing China. And this statement on the floor of the House will be taken up on international fora, just like Mr. Rahul Gandhi's earlier statements have been picked up by Pakistan and presented to the United Nations. And I want to ask you this in all seriousness. To all the time condemn big industrialists, have these industrialists just been born in 2014 and become rich in the last 7 years? Or were they existing with multiple organizations and a lot of investments in India over the last several years? It's a question of fact and a question of record. Were there no industries by these industrialists before the Congress gave up part and passed the baton on to the BJP? And I want to ask you, the most important part of this, he talked about the insult heaped on, some people from Manipur invited by the Home Minister because they had to take off their shoes and their chappals outside the house. Which Bharat, which India is Mr. Rahul Gandhi talking about? Because Mr. Kapil Madan, the India we all know about, it is almost a tradition and a convention to leave chappals outside. और घर के अंदर पहनने वाली चप्पल अलग होती है. ये बहुत से घरों में आप साउथ इंडिया में कहीं चले जाइए, आप नॉर्थ इंडिया में कई घरों में चले जाइए, चप्पल बाहर ही उतारी जाती है. ये इंसल्ट की बात नहीं है, ये हमारा कल्चर है. So Mr. Kapil Madan, I want to ask you, being tough on the government is absolutely right. We must demand answers on everything that is bothering us. But to be so economical with the truth and with the facts, is that also okay? Just because there's politics to be done?
Navika, first of all, let me respond to the foreign policy issue that you raised, and that primarily concerned with China. Now, I would like to tell your viewers that it was our late General CDS, late General Bipin Rawat, who on record mentioned that China is our #1 enemy. So the point what Mr. Gandhi tried to raise there is that the BJP government speaks very loudly against Pakistan. Everything, if you question the government, they say that, these are anti-national, these are Pakistani. But insofar as China, they don't speak up. Now, in fact, as recently when there were reports, in fact, it was Mr. Gandhi who raised the question that the China is now building a breach on a disputed territory. There was no answer from the government. And later, Ministry of External Affairs admitted, yes, indeed, there was construction happening. Now, the point I'm trying to make here is that when you can loudly question Pakistan on every issue, why don't you question and acknowledge that China is your enemy? And you are, facing a threat from China, and we should be prepared to answer China. The point I am trying to make here is the government's, the ruling government's silence on this issue raises a lot more questions. And insofar as Mr. Gandhi's statement regarding जो आपने अभी बताया कि ये हर एक घर का हर एक घर का हर तरीके का, हर घर के अलग रिचुअल्स होते हैं, अलग अलग तरीके से रहन सहन का तरीका होता है, और अगर आप नॉर्थ में जाएंगे तो शायद कुछ और है, साउथ में जाएंगे तो कुछ और है, नॉर्थ ईस्ट में जाएंगे तो कुछ और है. The point he was trying to make here is that when you can have, we've not seen what kind of chappal Mr. Amit Shah was wearing, but the point is that if you can wear yourself, why would you, tell your guests to not to wear? And all he was trying to convey was the anguish which the so-called guest faced at that point in time. And
Mr. Kapil Madan, while I'll get Shehzad Poonawala to respond, but I just want to, bring back to your memory and knock your memory a bit. ये वो जनरल बिपिन रावत है ना, जिनको सड़क का गुंडा बताया था, आज उनके वर्ड्स बड़े दोहराए जा रहे हैं. नंबर 1. नंबर 2, ये जो कौन सी चप्पल अंदर पहनी हुई थी आपको पता होगा, और अगर आप भारतीय घरों में गए होंगे तो अंदर पहनने की चप्पल और जो बाहर सड़क पर जाती है वो वाली चप्पल अलग होती है. बट चलिए, मैटर ऑफ डिटेल, बट टू यूज दैट एग्जाम्पल was slightly misplaced. Maybe the point that he was trying to make has got confused with the fact that he's used a wrong example, because the culture of India is something that most of us know about. But Shehzad Poonawalla, respond to Mr. Kapil Mada.
Let me respond to that, Mr. Rawat's statement. I would just like to make a small clarification. Mr. Dixit used the remark that you said, and he apologized thereafter. And to use and say that we are questioning General Bipin Rawat, I would just like to remind only one incident where our own Prime Minister made a remark against the army कि इनको बिरयानी खिला के terrorists को छोड़ देते हैं. That's all I want to say here.
Well, Shehzad Poonawalla, respond.
देखिए नाविका जी, जो काशी विश्वनाथ मंदिर में नमाज की मुद्रा में बैठे और जिनके हमारे तो रोम रोम में भारत बसता है तो भारतीय संस्कृति से हम वाकिफ है, पर जिनके मन में रोम हो वो क्या जाने कि भारतीय संस्कृति में चप्पलें कहाँ निकाली जाती है और फिर दूसरी चप्पलें कैसे घर में पहनी जाती है। बहरहाल वो विषय नहीं है। जिन लोगों ने कुत्ते की प्लेट में आज के मौजूदा मुख्यमंत्री असम को बिस्किट ऑफर किया हो, जो कुत्ते को उन्होंने डाला था, आज उस व्यक्ति से इस प्रकार की मर्यादा का उम्मीद करना और संस्कृति की जानकारी का उम्मीद करना, ये तो बहुत दूर की बात है। पर मैं सवाल पूछना चाहता हूँ। आज सवाल तो बिल्कुल जायज़ है। देखिए, एक व्यक्ति ने 2 नेशन थियोरी की बात की थी, उसका नाम था मोहम्मद अली जिन्ना, और आज 2 इंडिया थियोरी की बात कर रहे हैं राहुल गांधी, जो कहते हैं कि भारत इज नॉट अ नेशन। ये उनके शब्द है पार्लियामेंट में, इंडिया इज नॉट अ नेशन। पर मैं उनसे पूछना चाहता हूं, क्योंकि 2 राहुल गांधी जरूर है। एक राहुल गांधी जो लोकतंत्र की बात करते हैं, पूरे देश में ढिंडोरा पीटते हैं, परंतु अपनी पार्टी में जब लोकतांत्रिक तरीके से कोई गुलाम से आजाद बनना चाहता है तो उसका मुंह दबा दिया जाता है। एक राहुल गांधी वो है जो किसानों की बात करते हैं, कहते हैं कि मैं 10 दिन में कर्ज माफ करूंगा, और जब वो किसानों की जमीन नीलाम होने की बारी राजस्थान में आती है तो राहुल गांधी कहीं दिखता नहीं है। एक राहुल गांधी जो पूरे देश को कोविड का ज्ञान देता है, पर उसी के नेता जब कहते हैं ओमिक्रॉन खतरे से कोई खतरा नहीं है और वैक्सीन हेजिटेंसी फैलाते हैं, तो वो राहुल गांधी कुछ नहीं कहता। जब महाराष्ट्र में सबसे ज्यादा कोविड के केसेस आते हैं और वहां पर 1 रुपया कॉम्पनसेशन का नहीं दिया जाता। 2 राहुल गांधी जरूर है। एक राहुल गांधी जो बोलता है कि हम किसानों के एजिटेशन के साथ है और वो किसानों को आत्महत्या करना पड़ता है। महाराष्ट्र में 2500 से ज्यादा किसानों को हनुमानगढ़ में एमएसपी मांगने जाते हैं तो उनको डंडों से पीटा जाता है। और ये एक राहुल गांधी तय तो कर ले कि 2 आंकड़े क्यों बताते हैं। 1 मिनट में बताते हैं 23 करोड़ को पॉवर्टी से निकाला, दूसरे बार बताते हैं 27 करोड़ को निकाला। कौन सा सही आंकड़ा है? एक बार कहते हैं रिपब्लिक डे में किसी को बुलाया नहीं गया था। फैक्ट तो यह है कि 5 वो राज्य प्रमुख जिनको बुलाया गया था ओमिक्रॉन की वजह से नहीं आ पाए और 27 को उनकी समिट थी। राहुल गांधी मुझे यह बता दे कि 4 पुश्तें कहती रही कि गरीबी हटाएंगे, जब तक इनकी सरकार थी मनमोहन सिंह की, क्यों नहीं गरीबी हटाई? इसलिए नहीं हटा पाए क्योंकि गरीबी इनके लिए स्टेट ऑफ माइंड है, एक्शनेबल चीज नहीं है। आज हमने 44 करोड़ लोगों को बैंक अकाउंट से जोड़ा है। आज हमने 10-11 करोड़ लोगों को शौचालय दिए, 9 करोड़ से ज्यादा घरों में हम लोगों ने आज हमने गैस सिलेंडर पहुंचाया है। आज हमने 3 करोड़ से ज्यादा घर बनाए हैं जो गरीबों के बने हैं। आज हमने 5 करोड़ से ज्यादा घरों में नल से जल पहुंचाया और 4 करोड़ के घर में नल पहुंचा रहे हैं। 80 लाख लोगों के नए घर बना रहे हैं। ये इनके लिए पॉवर्टी हटाने की बात नहीं है। आज हमने पर कैपिटा इनकम को 65,000 रुपए हुआ करता था, उसको बढ़ाकर 1,25,000 करने का काम किया है। क्या ये पॉवर्टी हटाना नहीं है? आज भारत की इकोनॉमी जो फ्रेजाइल 5 से
लेकिन शहजाद पूनावाला जी, सवाल ये भी है कि उन्होंने कुछ ऐसे मुद्दे भी उठाए जिनके जवाब देने जरूरी है। There is a requirement of the government to brief the country about what is going on in China. You can't take away that question. The government should respond, and I'm sure Finance Minister will respond on the issue of unemployment and also the issue that has been raised about the growth and the fact that the poverty has had a different kind of a situation after COVID. These are pertinent questions that should be discussed and debated. But the question I want to ask, and Mr. Vivek Silas is joining the show, Samajwadi Party spokesperson. Vivek Silas ji, the question I want to ask is, does Mr. Rahul Gandhi confuse some facts with some non-facts, and that is why some of the questions that he raises also get lost in translation?
I don't know, ma'am. I didn't hear what Mr. Rahul Gandhi said because I was quite busy. But I can just say, as you mentioned about China and unemployment, that these two are big issues that the country is facing at the moment. There's no doubt about it. Because as far as China is concerned, you can see that China is almost controlling Pakistan. They have their bases in Sri Lanka. They have they have increased the incentive of export from Bangladesh. They are interfering in the cabinet of Nepal. So China is a player who is very big, who's very strong, and whose economy is more than 2.5 times that of India.
Has that happened in the last 5 years?
The country needs
has that happened in the last 5 years? Is my question to you.
No, no, not at all, ma'am. What is a fact will always remain a fact. But at the moment, China had entered the territory of India. It entered from Arunachal as well. We could see the satellite images that they have already built their villages, and which are of concrete. It's very, I can't say it's not humiliating, but it is very a matter of concern, I can say, for India. And unemployment definitely is a big issue for India. At the moment, we are facing the highest unemployment rate in the last 46 years. And if you see Uttar Pradesh, the most unemployed are in Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh at the moment is the third poorest state after Bihar and Jharkhand. So these two questions that you have just pointed out are definitely very, very important for the country. Rest, whatever Mr. Rahul Gandhi said, I didn't hear that, so I cannot comment on that, ma'am.
Well, you didn't hear it. It was a speech in Lok Sabha. Maybe you don't aim to be in Lok Sabha, so आप अभी assembly चुनाव में इतने व्यस्त हैं. Before I come to you, Shehzad Poonawala, we're getting breaking news coming in. EU has now asked, and the EU wants India to join financing initiative for Indo-Pacific to counter China. French diplomat has made this statement. Rahul had said that India is standing alone. This really comes as a fact check to Mr. Rahul Gandhi. India has been asked now to join EU-led initiative, and the French diplomat has made this statement. For Rahul Gandhi, India is isolated, but EU wants India to join this anti-China axis in the Indo-Pacific. So it is China and not India that is being countered by the world. Srinjoy Chaudhary, my colleague, joins me on the phone line. Thank you, Srinjoy, for joining me. This statement that has come from EU, what does it exactly plan to do, and does this actually put Rahul Gandhi's whole comparison about India being isolated in the world to question once again?
Oh, undoubtedly. I mean, to look at Gandhi's statement, has he forgotten that Prime Minister and Donald Trump had a very good relationship? Prime Minister and Joe Biden have a good relationship. And the fact that President Putin was here in India not very long ago, the fact that there have been 2 Republic Day parades without chief guests is not because of anything else except COVID. Boris Johnson was keen to come. 5 leaders of Central Asian countries were keen to come. It's only COVID that has come in the way. Surely he knows that there is something called COVID that is hurting the world. Now, as far as the European Union is concerned, India and the EU countries, all 27 of them, want closer economic ties. They already are strengthening their military ties. Let's not forget the German frigate was here not that long ago. India and France have very strong defense relationship. Now the EU wants closer economic ties. There is already discussions that have begun about a free trade agreement. So very clearly, if Rahul Gandhi is saying India is isolated, he will actually have to give examples, because just to say that there were no chief guests on the last 2 Republic Day parades will not wash, simply because there were chief guests who could not come because of COVID. Now, as far as any other country is concerned, India is crucially important. And apart from Pakistan and China, there are no countries.
That's right. And today the French ambassador, Emmanuel Lenin, in a conversation has said that it's a big problem. China is using its financing in some countries, financing of projects in some countries to take over these countries. And China will have to be countered with more closer ties on financing between India and EU countries. And India will play a pivotal role is what has been stated by the Chinese, by the French ambassador Emmanuel Lenin. Thank you very much, Srinjoy Chaudhary, for joining me on the News Hour. And there you have it, Ashutosh Mishra ji. अब क्या कहेंगे? ये तो इंडिया को अभी स्टेटमेंट आया है and PTI has said it. I'm not saying it. PTI has put this take out and they've said that EU wants closer ties with India to counter China. Isolated India? कैसे हो?
So the isolation was with reference to our neighbors, where Mr. Modi has succeeded in even turning a Hindu Nepal against us. As far as France is concerned, राफेल बेचना है और भी आगे उनको बेचना है. मोदी जी से तो बहुत पक्की दोस्ती है डिफेंस के मामले में. If you see, all of them are interested in fighting China. So when Rahul Gandhi speaks about China, you have to take it seriously. I mean, Rahul Gandhi needs to be congratulated for openly expressing what most of the Indians are feeling today, that the emperor is naked. He refuses to see the truth. He could not see the Chinese intrusion. You never hear him speaking against China. China today in trade is our number one partner, despite so many bans. You remember he banned all the apps, but immediately after that, China has started getting business and the exports. Their Chinese exports to India are increasing, etc., etc. So it's a ever-present danger. You cannot have this ostrich mentality. And all the statistics that was being quoted by the BJP spokesperson, he should remember that the foundation was laid by Mr. Modi's predecessor. Now, all Mr. Modi is doing is either selling those PSUs or he is pushing more and more people into poverty. I mean, those are statistics which cannot be denied. You cannot say that there are people haven't got poorer. The rich have got richer under BJP and the poor have got poorer. During COVID, one of the friends of BJP, about whom Rahul Gandhi keeps talking, he sacked people. That particular group sacked people, and the amount, 800 odd crores, were given to PM CARES Fund. That's what we are talking about to India.
So France will say what India wants because India is buying Rafale from them. Quad, I don't think you've heard about it. Ishkaran Bhandari, Quad kya hai? And forget Quad, forget all of these facts. The fact is, has China suddenly become strong? Has China suddenly become a partner of Pakistan in the last 7 years? What about China's facts that have been raised by Mr. Jaishankar? And the question really is, that not just in 63 or 70s or 65, let's forget that era. Let's talk about 2013 when China was doing what it was doing in parts of India. Has Mr. Rahul Gandhi completely forgotten that period?
Navika, firstly, it was very interesting how the spokesman, my compliments to him, very smartly sidestepped Rahul Gandhi by saying, I haven't heard it, because there was nothing to defend it. So that is very good what he did. And the same thing is what the people of Amethi also did. They sidestepped Rahul Gandhi. Because you cannot defend the indefensible. The problem with Rahul Gandhi is he speaks like an entitled, spoiled child. The unfortunate part for India is he gets to do not in his drawing room, but in the Parliament of India. Because the language he used, today he said something against the judiciary, which is outrageous contempt of the court. And this from a person who is entitled, because when Indira Gandhi loses the election, she imposes emergency because the judiciary rules against her. And when Rahul Gandhi, in as recent as 2019, had to apologize unconditionally to the judiciary for ascribing things to judiciary which were not true. So what he does, he goes to the parliament and takes these pot shots at the judiciary. Why? Because the judiciary is not doing what he probably wants the judiciary to do. It's an independent institution. We forget how by his language he is damaging election commission, judiciary. He keeps on damaging all institutions of this country because the era of Gandhian Farman is over, and that is his problem. Now on to the specifics. 2013, as you have rightly said, 640 square kilometers occupied by China, said by the national security advisor of those times, not by BJP or TV channels. So when he comes here and he speaks on national security, which is a very important topic, but the problem is he has zero credibility. And to even speak on that, he will start with, my great-grandfather did that, my grandmother did that, my father did that. India is a young country. People want to know, what have you done? As a top politician who's around 50 years of age, what is your contribution? That is what people want to know. And unfortunately, he just keeps behaving like a spoiled child, and that is why India has ignored him.
Well, I want to ask, and I want to get in Kapil Madan. Kapil Madan, you're also an advocate. I want to ask you, does abusing India's top industrialists actually make a case for increasing employment in this country? I want to ask you this. It's a very simple question. We're facing an employment issue, must raise that question. But to bring it back and to abuse industrialists for doing so, is that going to create an environment for investments? Is that the way we are going to solve the problem of growth in this country and the problem of employment in the country? I just want to ask you that question.
So Navika ji, I would first like to respond to Ishkaran. Also, Ishkaran said that there was some statement made by Mr. Gandhi against the judiciary. So let me clarify the context here. If you would recall that in the Pegasus list that was used against the Indian, you had certain people from the judiciary who were there on the list. So when Mr. Gandhi made a statement that the judiciary is being attacked, it was in that context that the government is trying to use these kind of tools and malwares and spywares against judiciary. So let me clarify. Now your second point, Navika ji, when you said that why Mr. Gandhi is questioning,
I need to respond to this.
Why these why
no on Pegasus, if he has a problem, the offer was made to him on the floor of the house that he can submit his phone and get it checked. Do you think he does not want to believe the Supreme Court? He'll talk about the Election Commission, the way the Election Commission has conducted elections. All the time to point a finger. The fact is, you've seen the West Bengal results, you've seen the Rajasthan results, and you continue to raise these questions. You've seen the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has taken several decisions and given several judgments against the government. To continue to raise these questions, who's weakening the institutions of India is the question. I'm coming to you, Ishkaran, but who's weakening the questions, the institutions in this country, Ishkaran? What is Rahul Gandhi's statement, if not weakening the institutions?
Yes. No, firstly, I want to do a fact check. My friend Kapil, he is a skillful lawyer, but he is not speaking the right facts. Rahul Gandhi in Parliament has been very clear, and I'm reading this. He did not say Pegasus is destroying judiciary. What he said, the judiciary, the Election Commission, Pegasus, they are all instruments of destroying the voice of Union of States. He is saying judiciary is destroying the voice of Union of States.
Respond. You agree, Kapil? You agree, Kapil Madan?
It is out of context. It was said.
No, it is not out of. Shehzad Poonawala, is this the weakest excuse that you can find that he's being quoted out of context?
It's simple English.
Navika.
Yes,
Navika, can I please come in here?
Yes, we are waiting for you to make your point.
Navika, those who confuse Parivar Tantra with Lok Tantra, here is the statement. I'm playing out what Rahul Gandhi has said. Please listen to the entire statement.
And I'll give you examples. The judiciary, the Election Commission, Pegasus. These are all instruments of destroying the voice of the Union of States.
Pegasus, Judiciary and Election Commission are instruments which are used to destroy the voice of the Union of States. This is the statement made by Rahul Gandhi. So please, Mr. Madan, stop resorting to lies. You could have at least said you have also not heard Rahul Gandhi's statement, just like the Samajwadi Party has said he did not heard this statement. Secondly, now please, Navika, please ask him not to intervene. His lies and his leaders' lies have been caught on the floor of the Parliament and on the floor of Navika's show. Point number one. Ma'am, please let me complete my point. I did not interrupt anybody. Mr. Madan, you have been caught with your pants down, not literally but figuratively. Please stop interrupting others. Let me speak. Thank you very much. Please show common courtesy. You're a lawyer by training. I believe you're a lawyer by training. At least exhibit some qualities of a lawyer. Thank you. Thank you.
Closing comment, Shehzad.
Thank you. Can I please complete, Navika? I did not interrupt. Navika, I said, let me complete. I did not interrupt. This is eminently unfair. I've heard everybody else. When it is my time, he's interrupting.
A fact check on the NewsHour is done, live as you speak, and that's exactly what's been done. So do not use the excuse of he was being
Navika,
quoted out of context. It was in context, and you've heard the statement at the beginning of the show, and now through Shehzad Poonawala. Shehzad, last 30 seconds to you.
Now let me complete, please.
Yes, Shehzad.
Yes, नाविका जिनका चाइना के साथ करार और पाकिस्तान के साथ दिल का करार हो, वो ये पहले बताए कि शमसगाम वैली कब दे दी पाकिस्तान ने चाइना को? 1963 में। काराकोरम हाईवे कब बना पीओके के थ्रू? 1970s में। कब न्यूक्लियर कोलैबोरेशन हुआ चाइना और पाकिस्तान का? 1970s में। 2013 में क्या हुआ? वो चाइना और पाकिस्तान का इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर बना। तब कहां थे? राइटली सेड बाय इश्करन, 40,000 square kilometers handed over to China in Aksai Chin. You gave away a United Nations Security Council seat to China. You signed a deal with China and then you allowed the trade deficit to balloon to $35 billion. These are the things you did when you were in power in UPA. You allowed 640 square kilometers to be taken over by China. 600 incursions took place during your tenure by China. And when we were standing eye to eye in Doklam, that time you were having Chinese food with the Chinese ambassador. So you are coming today and telling us, you are the ones who have done a deal with China. Please tell us what is in the deal in China.
Well, the question here is that there are pertinent questions that this country needs answers for, and the country will continue to raise them, and every senior leader of the opposition must ask them. But when these questions are asked, they cannot be wrapped up in questions which are not statements of fact. Questions and worries on unemployment, on the economy are absolutely justified. But questions that are raised which really actually question the institutions that India stands on, the pillars of our democracy, then questions must be asked. Are we going to strengthen this country by questioning the same institutions that make it stand so tall? It's a question that Mr. Rahul Gandhi must think about and answer. Thanking my panelists for joining me on debate number 1.